How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. In today's video, I've got 4 topics to cover. The first one is that the PS1 is back in a really cool way. Second on the list, it's officially showcase season. The rumors are heating up on when we can expect this rumored, amazing PlayStation showcase we've been waiting so long for. Third on the list, we're going to talk about how this secret PlayStation feature is still a mystery. And fourth, I'll let you know what the Concord Roadmap is. Yes, this game is coming out in a week. I don't know if you know that. All right, let's talk about this first news story here, which is that the PS1 is back. You guys know I love emulation on my Steam Deck. I play most of my PS1 games on my Steam Deck. It's a great thing to play these games in bed or in my backyard in front of a bonfire or in front of the TV when my wife is watching The Bachelor and I can just pop some headphones in and sit next to her, which makes her happy, but play games, which makes me happy because I don't like The Bachelor. I'm sorry. You don't need a Steam Deck to do it though. You can emulate games on your phone. If you pick up the Backbone 1 controller for your iPhone or your Android phone, it's awesome for playing emulated games. There are really no good games that use the controller that are natively made for iPhone, since like the big ports of Resident Evil 4 and Village run like crap. But loading up something like Burnout Legends, God of War Chains of Olympus, God of War Ghosts of Sparta, Daxter, you can run through the whole Ready at Dawn series. It's kind of awesome to be able to do that. You can also do it on pretty much any laptop out there, but I think this version of a PS1 emulator really takes the cake. So what this guy did is he took a PS1 case, not the original PlayStation, the slim model that was called the PS1, like PSONE. He basically cut it in half and then took out all of the internals and realized that a Raspberry Pi 4 would fit perfectly inside. So he cut the case a little bit more with a Dremel to make space for USB ports, and bam, he's got a PS1 that's pretty portable and can connect to like any monitor or TV you really want to throw it at. I've messed around with stuff like this a few times in my day, but I've never really done anything with a Dremel. I kind of like started getting into hobby stuff. Like I made a bunch of Star Wars models. A couple of them are behind me there. And then I kind of took a break on that because I just had no room in my apartment in LA to work on bigger models. Like I was working with the really teeny Star Wars ships. And then I moved to Michigan. I got a Jeep Wrangler. I did a ton of work on it myself. That was like the next evolution of hobbying. But as we get more into fall, closer to winter, I'm getting nostalgic for the PlayStation 1 and all of these games that I kind of grew up with throughout the PSP generation especially. So this is honestly something I'd love to try out and do. It really throws me back to when Nintendo started doing all of those classic consoles. Like they had the NES Classic and the SNES Classic, and Sony was like, hey, we should try and get in on this as well. And they did an okay job. Like the PS1 Classic or whatever they called it had some decent games, but like they were the PAL versions. They didn't run all that well. It was cool that it came with a DualShock that worked over USB or whatever connector they had. It came with the version of the DualShock that didn't have joysticks, which really sucked. So yeah, it was like good by half, I would say. Like they really just threw it out there, unlike Nintendo, who went through a lot of work to make sure that that console that they put out was actually really cool. Honestly, I'd love to see Sony take another crack at this, give us a better version of the PS1 Classic and then do a PS2 Classic. I know they're probably never going to do it because now you can get classic games from the PSP, PS1, PS2 generations with your PS Plus premium subscription, but we all know that emulator sucks, and if you install a Raspberry Pi and get everything set up right, the emulation options you have are 10 times better than what you can get out of the PlayStation 5. So if you really want a classic console, this guy basically gave you a tutorial on how to make one, and I think it's pretty cool. I just love the PlayStation 1. I get more nostalgic for it as I get older, obviously, but there was something about those games. After playing Resident Evil 2 and 3 last year, the original versions on my Steam Deck, I was like, man, these games were definitely totally revolutionary for the time that they came out, and they still hold up today. So if you're a younger gamer out there, take advantage of the PS Plus Classics on premium, or maybe buy a couple a la carte, or if you've got a Windows PC or even a Mac or an iPhone, maybe try setting up some of these free emulators that are out there so you can get into some of the classics that make me want to put up with Sony not putting out any fucking games this generation. It's like my nostalgia is keeping me going. as a hardcore PlayStation fan. Anyway, that brings us to the second news story here, which is all about the rumored showcase. Like, look, at this point, it needs to happen. I said this for months when we started getting rumors earlier this year that there's going to be a showcase around May or June, that it needed to happen. But now that it was a state of play that largely sucked, if I'm being honest, it really needs to happen. But this time around, they've got a ton of stuff that we know is coming that they absolutely need to announce from the hardware perspective, the PS5 Pro. So that is like the concrete sort of anchor that's keeping my hope alive that we are going to get a showcase. I've been waiting for the rumors to start, and they officially have. This one's coming from Detective Seeds on X. He's been right way more than he's been wrong. I know I've talked about a lot of his tweets over the years here on the channel, and yeah, a lot of the time when he predicts when a showcase will happen, he's only off by at least a day or two. It's never really like that big of a leap from where it actually happens to where he predicted it to happen. So when I saw his tweet pop up, I got excited. It reads, "Been asked about the PlayStation showcase on September 12th. That is the info I was provided by two different people at PS Studios. It falls 1 week before God of War Ragnarok on PC and also before Tokyo Game Show, which they're going to. So it makes sense. Obviously, SIE can change whatever they want date-wise, but I've not been told very differently yet." So I kind of like said, I don't know if this is worth doing a whole video topic on because it's just a showcase prediction, but then some drama started because an account called Lunatic Ignis retweeted it, and this guy apparently is also like a leaker out there in the world, and he said, "I suggest everyone not trust leaks about supposedly PlayStation Showcase. Some reliable leakers should hear some whispers about the next PS event soon at the end of the month." And then Detective Seeds hit him back, which is kind of shocking because you never really see this happen, and he said, "Yeah, I'm not a journalist, blogger, or usual leaker, in quotes. I play games with dudes from some of the studios and do behind the scenes feedback when it comes to accessibility features. I'm happy to be wrong. That is what I was told, and in my mind makes sense with what they are doing in September. Time will tell though." So yeah, this actually does line up with what I personally have been hearing. I don't really have ironclad sources or anything. Again, it's just people who work closely with PlayStation, but I've been hearing for a little bit now that the week of September 12th is what we should be looking forward to, and it does make sense, right? Because Tokyo Game Show, it's a big trade show. It's not necessarily the biggest, like on par with Gamescom or the Rip and Peace E3, but it's big enough where it would make sense for Sony to show off the PS5 Pro beforehand at an event like a showcase, because then they could bring it physically to Tokyo Game Show and let people get their hands on it, let journalists take pictures of it, get the hype out there. Like, you're going to have big presence from big journalists at this event, so it makes sense to make sure you have something that's worth showing off. Also, Sony has skipped the last Tokyo Game Show, so it's weird that they're even showing up to this one in the first place. And on top of the PS5 Pro, this showcase is like the future of PlayStation. In my last video, I talked about how 2025 is the make or break year for PlayStation because people are honestly getting fed up with the lack of support from Sony in terms of first-party games. They kind of tried to quell those fears with their investor call this week, where they said, "Hey, look, we know we have kind of dropped the ball with getting consistent releases out, but our plan going forward is to consistently and continually release big tentpole first-party games. We just have to finish making them first," and they have a lot of stuff in the oven. I'm just going to roll down the studios really quick because I talked about each individual one and the games they're working on in the last video, so if you want to hear that, go check out that video. But Sucker Punch, Naughty Dog, Insomniac, those are three huge studios that all have games in the oven. We also know that Firesprite, though, might be working on Until Dawn 2, and with Until Dawn getting an October 4th release date, the remake of it, and a movie coming out from David F. Sandberg, it would make sense to at least tease that in some sort of showcase. Plus, there's a bunch of second-party studios and other first-party studios that are working on original games like Bluepoint that we have heard nothing from. So if Sony really wants to get people excited, it just makes a ton of sense to do a huge showcase right before Tokyo Game Show where they say, hey, not only do we have this big piece of hardware coming out later this year, but we also have a ton of games on the horizon that you can be excited about. I think the key thing they need to really keep in mind though with this showcase is that they absolutely cannot throw original PS5 owners under the bus, because all we've really gotten are glorified PS4 ports this entire generation. Like, even me, someone who plans on buying a PS5 Pro later this year, I'm going to be absolutely pissed if Sony comes out of the gate and says, hey, all these games are going to have their best performance on PS5 Pro, and then they don't even show them off running on a regular old PS5, because that's what everyone has. And even when the PS5 Pro comes out, the PS5 is going to be cheaper, and when people want to buy games for the PlayStation 5, I bet 9 times out of 10 people are going to buy the original PS5 over the Pro, because Pro consoles are a niche market, right? They're for the people who have a lot of money, who want to get the best of the best and never really use it, and they're for the people who play every single game that comes out on the PlayStation 5, and they want to get the best performance possible. There's no real middle ground when it comes to the PS5 Pro, so there's really no incentive to throw PS Original users under the bus. So yeah, it's August 13th right now, so if this showcase happens on September 12th, it's only a month away, which is awesome. I hope it actually happens. And like weirdly, Sony has been very quiet the past couple of weeks. Like, you know, I check the news for PlayStation every day just to build out stories for these videos, and I kind of get this feeling right before Sony's about to announce something because nothing really comes out of them. And we are definitely in one of those 2-week periods where they're clearly working on something behind the scenes, because there's been pretty much nothing coming up on the PlayStation blog other than the announcement of the release date of Until Dawn, which again is October 4th. Anyway, that brings us to the third news story of today's video, which is that there's some weird stuff going on behind the scenes, and there's a secret PS5 feature that has yet to be unlocked, and I did a little bit of an investigation as to why. So we talk about PlayStation Stars quite a lot on this channel, mainly because, you know, recently it went down for a month, which really sucked, and then Sony brought it back, and they did virtually nothing to do a make good, which I still think is really bad, but it is a cool service where you can get, by buying digital games, currency that allows you to buy PlayStation Store gift cards and even full games like Rise of the Ronin and Stellar Blade, which honestly is pretty cool at the end of the day. I'm sure you know how it all works, but it has a level system that increases when you complete campaigns or buy games or really do anything on the PlayStation Store, and right now the highest level you can get to is 4. But back when it was announced that there was a level 5, and no one has really figured out how to get to it. People have been investigating this for over a year now, for pretty much the entire life cycle of PlayStation Stars, and it looks like there's two options here. The first one is that it's an invite only feature, because there are people on the PlayStation Network who are level 5 in PlayStation Stars, but as it turns out, they're really only PlayStation employees or PlayStation insiders, you know, people directly connected to the PlayStation brand as a whole. So it makes sense that they would get an invite only tier that they're the only ones who can access. And if you're not believing that this tier is real, you can actually find it within the PlayStation Stars app, and when you get to it, it comes with a special little trophy, and that trophy is viewable. So like, if they have it already set up, it would make sense for it to be an invite only thing. The other possibility is that they just haven't figured out what the reward will be for it, because if you didn't know, you actually get status tiers of rewards based on your PS Stars level. If you get to level 4, you basically get to skip the line when you're talking to PlayStation support, which is awesome, because if you didn't realize, there's a lot of reasons lately to have to talk to PlayStation support, so being able to skip the line is awesome. So when you have something like that at level 4, I'm just really curious what level 5 could be, and it seems like maybe Sony hasn't figured it out either. Then the third option might be that there's just this astronomical number of points that you have to accrue over a certain period of time for Sony to invite you, like, you know, one of those hardcore credit cards that gives you an insane credit limit that says, hey, if you spend like $5 billion at Chase this year, we'll give you this solid gold credit card. Like, maybe it's a system like that where, you know, you spend enough money on the PlayStation Store, you get invited to level 5 of PlayStation Stars, but no one's reached that tier yet. It is very curious though, and honestly, it might have something to do with why it went down, right? Like, maybe they were finally figuring out what they were going to do for level 5 of PlayStation Stars. They went to implement it, and because of how they built out the service, adding in that feature like being able to graduate from 4 to 5 may have taken it down. I mean, who knows? It's really weird though that there's this whole secret level of the forward public facing PlayStation rewards program that's just not accessible yet, and no one's really figured out how it works. Anyway, that brings us to the fourth news story of today's video, which is that Concord has laid out its roadmap. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think this game's gonna hit at all. It is only $40, but even at that price point, I still feel like this game should be free to play. The beta did not generate any hype really while people were playing it. I saw a tweet yesterday that said the Black Myth Wukong benchmark tool, which is a free tool you can download on your PC, has like astronomically more users than Concord ever reached during its beta. I know that you had to buy Concord to get into the beta on PC, but the big caveat there is that if you buy a game on Steam, you can refund it if you play a beta. So like, the beta time that you spend playing the game does not count towards the 2-hour window that you have when a new game comes out to refund it. So anyone who wanted to play it could have just pre-ordered it, let the money come out of their account, played the multiple beta weekends, and then refunded the game unless they decided to keep their pre-order in place, and it seems like neither of those things happened. So like, the hype is not there. The one thing I really think it does have going for it though is its like sort of progression and roadmap system. So there's no battle pass in this game, which I think think is really cool. I thought battle passes were fun when they first started coming out and I was really engaging with Destiny. I had a lot of fun leveling up my battle pass from 0 to 100 in multiple seasons of Destiny. Then my friends got into Fortnite and I was like, another one to keep track of. Then Diablo 4 came out. I was like, another one to keep track of. Then I got into Call of Duty and I leveled that one up to 100 in like 2 days. And I was like, all right, I'm completely out of the battle pass system. I'm over it. Every single one of them feels exactly the same. And when you compare the battle pass skins for 99% of the games that have them to the skins you can get in the store skins are always better. So it feels like kind of a shitty service to even have the battle pass in the first place. So not having one in Concord is pretty cool. The way you'll unlock things is kind of like a battle pass though. Like there's just a bunch of stuff to unlock in the game and you unlock it by playing the game and leveling up. So it's not necessarily a battle pass, but it's really the same system because you play the game, earn XP, level up, get rewards that are set, but they're really the only rewards in the game. They do say though, but they're really the only rewards at launch. And then they say eventually pretty close after launch or maybe right at launch, they're going to have some sort of skin shop that'll allow you to buy cosmetics. But like, I don't really want to buy cosmetics for this game because the core character design, I'm just being honest, is terrible. Like there is not a single character in this game that I think looks legitimately cool outside of the big pill-shaped robot. Everyone else looks like, I don't even know, like it looks like they all shop at Zara or something and they're all wearing like tech wear and stuff when you're fighting with guns on a battlefield. There's just something really weird about this game where nothing really feels like it clicks together. Like the logo is awesome. The main ship, the Freestar or North Star or whatever, looks really cool. The design is awesome. Then you see the characters, they all look terrible. The story system in this game seems bizarre. Like nothing's really coming together for it, but you know, it is coming out next week and it could be a minor hit for PlayStation. I just don't foresee it making it past its 4 announced content updates. So season 1 is coming in October, then season 2 is coming in January, and then in April, season 3 will start, and there's going to be new maps, new everything, new skins, new things to unlock. It's like a typical run-of-the-mill sort of progression system for an online-only game. And again, when you have all of this stuff coming for free, it is cool, but I honestly think more people would play this game if it was a free-to-play game, right? Like, you need the ability to just be able to try it out, get your hands on the game, and see how it plays. And having a $40 paywall be right there in your face just seems like an unnecessary roadblock to getting people into this actual game. The one big boon it has outside of the other couple that I talked about is the fact that nothing is really coming out right now. Like the games I'm playing are Alien Isolation and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, just because there's nothing really new on the table to play. I'm even considering going back and trying out the new Diablo season. So they might capture at least a few people who are bored and are looking for a new multiplayer shooter. But yeah, I don't know what the strategy was here. It's really bizarre that Sony looked at a game that was 5 years in development and just bought the studio wholesale. But yeah, Concord comes out next week. Let me know if you're playing it down in the comments below. I'm not dropping 40 bucks on it. I'm just going to be real. Anyway, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.